Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Arindam.
Hi, good morning, Dr. Lopa.
How are
We
you?
have about 15 odd people, so let's get started. Before I get into the session, actually, I mean, this is kind of this time round. I'm not going to be presenting anything. I want to keep this more open discussion. I don't want to get too prescriptive because AppSec is fundamentally a framework that you kind of develop for your organization, looking at the specifics of how many applications, how big, how they're hosted, what the purpose of those applications. So I didn't want to get too prescriptive, otherwise it might not be it not might not remain too relevant for everyone. So this time around we want to keep it more open, more question based. I did send out a form earlier in the week. I have a few fairly interesting questions and some obvious ones. Again, I mean, this is going to be a more open discussion. I request all of you to kind of bring up your thoughts, your concerns. I mean, the reason why we thought of selecting this topic is obviously, I mean, in today's hyper-connected world, the applications are obviously the backbone for digital transformation. However, this whole digital fabric is in a constant threat from an array of cyber risks. As CIOs and CISOs and different roles that all of you play in your organizations, the obvious challenges that I see is the businesses asking for accelerated development cycles. With AI, code is being generated at almost the speed of thought. I mean, the better you articulate your requirements, the better is the output. Which obviously means that security has to keep up pace with ensuring that whatever is getting rolled out is secure at all points in time. And with the rise in APIs and microservices, cloud native architectures, the attack surface obviously is expanding exponentially. And with that, obviously, is the reliance on third-party libraries, open source components, which I mean, we are seeing a lot of vulnerabilities deep in the software supply chain, right? I mean, while the most prominent one that comes to my mind right now is CrowdStrike. Not to do anything with AppSec, but I mean, if it were to happen in your core applications, a third-party software which brings in a vulnerability causes your software to shut down, right? So, and that's the reason why I wanted to kind of have a very open discussion to see what challenges all of us are facing, and then try and make it a more engaging discussion, which is meaningful for everyone. So, I mean, probably I'll start off with a question, if it is okay to everyone, and please feel free to chime in with your perspective. Is what do we think are the cornerstones of a strong AppSec program? Anyone on the group who wants to start off?
Secure by design, right? I think secure by design and privacy by design is very important, right? Rather than doing a check gates later on, right? So today we are seeing the productized way of working, right? So we have seen a lot of teams, right, who are just not developers, right? They really have a security background, right? So there are three things, as we always talk: people, process, technology, right? So it starts with people, right? So you have right people with right skill sets, right, who really just don't understand development but the security aspects of it. So whenever a blueprint is created, let's say for an application, right, a business analyst comes up with the use with those cases, right, from the business, right, he also when he's articulating it, he also needs to be intricate about security. So it starts from there, and then the technical analyst who picks it up, right, who creates the design, the architecture of the application, the underlying infrastructure to be used, should be well versed with security, because this is a must have, right? So there is a concept of, U-shaped teams these days, right? Where you basically, look for people who are multi-skilled, right? So,
Mhm.
so they're multi-skilled, so that's one side on people, right? Second
Yeah.
on process, right? So you need to have rigorous processes. Like you need, if you are really working in agile ways of working, right? So you need to have a very tight coupling of application security in your CI/CD pipeline, right? So,
Mhm.
and infrastructure as a code, right? You need to have your guardrails. Whenever a developer asks you for, anything, right? You need to have a very secure guardrailed infrastructure that gets provisioned, right? Because it's just not application, it's where it is hosted also, has a very deep impact on your overall system security, right?
Uh,
Third is, people, process, technology, right? Technology, obviously, yes, there are state of the art technologies. A lot of OEMs are coming up with, multiple new products, right, which are unique, right, catering to the latest security asks in the industry, right? So I think the best of the breed products, coupled with right people and, robust processes, is
right.
what is required, and, in order to make it really work, right? Because it's secured by design, then it will really help you even in the journey afterwards, right? So that's how at least we see it, and that's how I see the industry is heading to, right? Pretty much, yeah.
Super, super. Thanks for those insights of the completely um, um, aligned on your thought, and I think you kind of brought it down to the absolute basics of putting it into those buckets of people, process, technology. I mean, ensuring that the people who are the other aspects of the people, and kind of build on what you said, is also ensuring that as CIOs and CISOs, identifying those champions in your business and your development teams who can carry the flag of security internally within their units as the development progresses on any application. Second is the training, the awareness of. I mean, obviously, developers nowadays are supposed to be versed with security. How do you write secure code? How do you make sure that the APIs that you're bringing into your environment are secure enough? You're not leaving any hard-coded creds in the code. But I think there is still a need for a more role-based training. Maybe something that the architects need to train their developers in certain organizations, which I see is working fairly effectively. Um, Sustainable governance is one area that I think we need to also look at as far as AppSec is concerned. I mean, you've got great KPIs and matrices to measure DevOps, but do we do a similar job of having matrices of DevSecOps, which measures how is the whole application development cycle working as far as security is concerned? Is the board getting visibility to how many critical vulnerabilities are being pushed into prod just because the business owner gave a sign off on a risk without understanding those concepts? So I completely agree with everything that you said. Thanks for sharing those. Anything has any thoughts on what those cornerstones are and give their
So,
perspective?
so for me, application security is enabling us to address the risks at the root by integrating the security and privacy one step above, that is privacy and security by default rather than by design. And overall, it's helped us to reduce the security burden. Because when application itself is not secure, when security measures are not taken care while developing the application, it's an overburden on the CISOs, CIOs to cover up or wrap up that particular application using a different layer of securities. That is one thing. Another is when we actually able to integrate application security in true sense by introducing the DevSecOps in place, it's actually help us to have a robust security in place. And I truly agree with you, Arindam, that most of the cases when we design the security, we forget the governance part, which is actually long term creating a sustainability issue, because you may establish a very robust program, very efficient program, but maintaining that program, sustaining that program is very important, and governance play a key role. Today, I feel most weakest link in security is governance. The reason is when we talk about the application security, in governance, the metrics are captured and more or less for the sake of, kind of yes, no questionnaire and certain, okay, graph, how it is improving. But it is very important the person associated with the governance specific area, they should have a proper skill set to govern. Because I personally feel that to govern, you need a better skill set, because you need to have a better understanding to govern something. So it is not a checklist job. A person who is having hands-on somewhere, at the initial days or up to mid-level of the career, and they take a conscious decision to the stepping inside the governance, that makes difference rather than having a checklist person, because it's bound to fall that case. But if you have a good set of people, and now biggest challenge is, do I need to have every skill set in governance? If you are a big organization, the answer is yes, but beauty in the governance would be there are people who is having a multiple skill set, right? Every security personnel may not be the master of all domain, but they are having a mastery, or they may have a good skill and good competency in at least 3 4 domains. So identify those kind of people and allow them to govern. And when it is coming to application security, we always talk about shift left, shift left, shift left. So that will work, but important while we are shifting left, are we integrating it proper way with the supporting technology? Like when we design a DevSecOps, most of the time, it's example, we conduct a VPT and the report is sitting in a GRC system, but the report supposed to be inside the Zira or somewhere where you actually tracking, and one level above you need to track it in a GRC system. That's one of the missing link which I have seen in majority of the cases. Another is we try to this application security skill needs to be part of journey of application developer, not only AppSec people. AppSec people need to be work as a guide. So what coming back to your question, application security for overall helping to build trust and help us to maintain a secure business operation by addressing and managing the risks within the organizational risk appetite. Also, it's when we are having the proper AppSec by design or by default, it helps us to land automatically to compliance without too much hurdles. And obviously it's protecting the sensitive data and preventing the attack, and contribute towards the overall security posture of the organization.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, I think I have my views. Can I share?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. See, I'll tell you, there are too many tools available in the market about AppSec. Okay. And the critical part, what I feel is, first, we should know what we want to protect. So that means I think we need to understand the business process well. What are the things which need to protect, and then based on which we need to select the app security. But the important part is, I think we need to have or a partner who should be to handle those tools properly. See, unfortunately, we buy a very high-end tool saying that we need high protection. Unfortunately, there are no skill sets available. And set up, then go into the performance issues, then maybe some other issues which impact the overall performance of the application. And security is like people that security is a mindset. If you train people in-house that what the security means, I think that will help us to improve the overall security organization. So putting up best of the security may not solve the problem, but making the tool understand people. When I say people, it can be a business user, it can be the developer, or it can be the people who are actually using that tool. Okay, have to be aware of that what kind of tool we are, of security we are implementing in the. So the way like we say CCTV camera, so it is important that we should tell people that you are monitored under CCTV camera. Otherwise, there will be issue in terms of performance of the overall application, or even at a.
We lose Tish.
Yeah, I think it's
Yes, I
All right.
think
So I have
So I agree with the Satish on the point that the security is not just about the controls or the tools or technology, but it is more from the philosophical standpoint, how you think about the security in the whole, right? So and it starts from the the very basic when you are starting to design the application or you are collecting the business requirements, right, which we call that business requirement document, when an analyst is trying to capture the business requirements and preparing the the detail around that. So we always focus on the business angle of it, what all is required for that particular application to work, right? And we always forget about the the aspect of what is not required. And most of the time we never think of that angle, that what is not required in his application, which eventually in the later run becomes the vulnerabilities, right? So and that's how the overall evolution of the applications, the application platform or infrastructure is becoming, from the operating systems to the containers and then to the microservices, right? We are trying to reduce the liabilities, we are trying to reduce the overhead, and initially from the resource consumption perspective, but there is a lot of security mindset also attached to that, that you don't have those softwares or those modules or libraries into your operating system which are not being consumed or used by your application, or which is not even required for your applications, right? So when you are running an application in an environment, you make sure you only have those things which are required for your application, so that when you come to those vulnerabilities, patching and updates, you have only those applications, those libraries, or those the software which needs to be upgraded, which are being consumed. So you are trying to basically reduce the landscape, right? And that's where it comes to the application itself. When you're talking about the business requirements, you also need to think from what is not required, right? So this is a holistic approach when you talk about the application security, and it's a lot of, as you mentioned about those cornerstones, right? What are those cornerstones? So one of the cornerstone is the cloud adoption, right? Uh, Initially, we were developing the application on the the on-prem infrastructure, where we have quietly matured the security in there, right? But now this move from on-prem to cloud, it has introduced new avenues like serverless applications, functions, containers, right? Microservices, APIs. So the security landscape has increased, not in terms of the size, but the complexity also.
Yeah.
And that's why this application security becomes more and more evident. And then the another thing is the the surge of moving left, right? The shift left approach. Now this buzzword has come, the shift left, which is pushing every organization, specifically from the security standpoint, to make sure we are all shifted left, right? But shifting left, it doesn't mean that you are moving security only to the left. It's about starting from the left to the right, and covering all the points without interfering into the overall the speed of the deployment and applications building, because that's the overall objective of having the DevOps, right? The agile methodology built into it to increase the speed, and hence the DevSecOps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree with Kuldeep and Shatish both on that. But the most importantly, the cultural aspect is very important, and it has to come from the top. Security needs to be injected in the vein of the culture, and the way we see the culture is cultivated by HR. Every organization have their culture. We need to take a step ahead and integrate our security and privacy culture within the same program to cultivate it in a better way to build that security mindset. Another thing is obviously role-based training. It is very important. We talk about the role-based training lots, but I feel that it is foremost important where we are adopting any new security tool. The people need to be trained on that. So I think all security training are very costly, but when we are actually onboarding a tool, at least for a couple of people, we need to ensure this program is integrated part of tool onboarding. And same way, that tool, how it is going to impact the cultural aspect of the organization, overall communication should be there in place. And when we look at the security aspect, right, when we gather the requirement, business need, everything, we do testing from an architecture perspective, data flow perspective. But there is another major issue which may pop up a security loophole in long term is a business logic. Some cases when developer convert application, keeping the business logic in mind, that business logic itself create a security loophole within the organization, specifically related to sensitive data and sensitive business information. That needs to be taken care. And a glaring example, even collecting over, go ahead and collect exhaustive information is the HR methodology till date, followed by most of the HR application adopted by the organization. When somebody applying for a job, lots of sensitive information they collect as a mandatory information, which is not required because it's actually triggering a burden for protecting the sensitive data. Those can be collected later part, when you say that, yes, this is the correct candidate, I'm onboarding, so next step collection. So these are the things we need to take care. Also, some cases, the data collected may create a bias in the recruiter mind also, which is also not correct, keeping the Indian labor law in mind or some other labor law in mind. So we can look at those aspects.
Right. Great. Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Lupa. I think
I have
sorry.
a question, and I want to throw this question to everyone, and would like to understand. So, because a lot of colleagues from different organizations and some of my clients have this question that who is primarily responsible or accountable for the application security, right? Is it the developers or the AppSec team or the security team, and who is also responsible for finalizing or selecting a tool for the application security from the overall AppSec standpoint. So
Great
just wanted to
question.
understand, yeah, everybody's view on this and how their organizations have divided this responsibility or accountability.
Great question. Yeah. So who's end of the day accountable? Whose head is on the block? If there is an, I mean, God forbid, if there's a breach due to AppSec issue, and then who's accountable? And the next part of this, Kuldeep, is who's responsible for end of the day selecting tools that are supposed to be helping us identify vulnerabilities and fix them. Right. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Yep. I'll open that up to the forum. Any thoughts, questions, or reactions to that question?
Okay.
Uh,
Very interesting questions, Kuldeep. In short, application application is the responsibility of the business team who actually onboard that application. So, but when it is coming to the application maintenance, the way IT is the custodian for that application, for the security aspect, security is the custodian and responsible for onboarding the best of breed security, you know, things specifically required to guard that tool or that particular application. Also, while onboarding, taking validating the security status and the privacy status of the application and giving that feedback to them. But it has always worked better when we hold business team responsible for the application security, demonstrating the risks and providing the advisory, and also take a responsibility to become a security custodian. It's actually enable us to protect the application in a better way because we get a more support from application, operation to handle the security aspect of that. Because we need to remember one thought is this application for not for us specifically for the business unless until it's a security tool or security
Good.
related to
Yeah.
application. Remaining cases we are custodian only and we act as a advisor for them. And once it is agreed, accordingly, we maintain the security and privacy.
Yeah. And I think, sorry, the other aspect, Kuldeep, on that point is, I mean, firstly, does security have visibility across all of the tools and apps that are in different phases of development within an organization? I mean, obviously, maybe for a smaller organization, it
Yeah.
might not be such a big issue. But there could be small pockets where security does not have visibility. There are going to be shadow
No,
IT.
I would say, as per my experience, dealing with a lot of clients and understanding the requirements, most of the time the security team doesn't have any clue, okay, on what is happening in the application because initially they are not being
They're
consulted
not
or
correct.
discussed even during this BRD phase or the designing phase, right? Which is now becoming more and more mandate though, but still the day-to-day life cycle which is going on the application building, right? The security team has very less visibility into what application team is doing, how they are doing. And that's why, this, though we are talking about shift left approach, but the shift left approach is again being divided into different parts, right? So one is definitely for the developer, right? So developer who's developing now, when you're doing the code scanning, right? So basically you're trying to identify his vulnerabilities, whatever he's coding, if he's using the best practices there or blah, blah, blah. And then the fixing of those vulnerabilities or those findings have been projected to the security team or AppSec team or whatever team we call that, and then they are coming back to the developers to fix those. right? And then this vicious cycle is like passing on the ball from one court to another court, right? And that's how the overall security gets the derailed there. Now, the point here is uh, the security and the application team doesn't have or doesn't used to have that common objective of because they both have different objectives. They don't have a common objective until unless we are from the, as Lopa also mentioned, it comes from top to bottom, right? The organization strategy and the risk appetites talk about what level of risk acceptance they have in terms of their critical applications, right? And then it gets diverged into all the streams down line, be it IT or security or the application, right? So in certain cases, the developers focus is always on the, so we trained the developers to code well, right? But then the developers focus is always on the code. Okay, he doesn't care about how application is going to interact now with other applications, or how business logics are being been tested in front, right? When we talk about the dynamic application testing, when the application is in runtime, right? So he's least bothered about the runtime. And then there is when the application goes live and it's talking to different applications, doing all the, he doesn't have that kind of visibility now. So you have different teams who are taking care of security, or who are trying to identify security on different areas. And that's why the synergy of these all 3 teams, 4 teams, whatever teams we are going to talk about, or we call, or we should have into the organization, has to have a one single plane of glass to see those, the overall security or overall application risk posture, basically the security risk posture. And hence these security tools which are coming in, we are talking about from the SAST standpoint, or SCA, or from real-time runtime application security identifications, or the typical vulnerability assessments and pen testing, what we are doing. This whole has to be clubbed, or kind of orchestrated by a single platform which can give you a visibility. And then it's like the cloud itself, right? The cloud has this shared responsibility model, right? Similarly, we have to define that in the policy, or in the how you develop your applications, how you design your applications, how you build your applications, and how you run your applications. So those all policy documents have to incorporate security into them as a policy itself, right? That what is the role and responsibility of a developer to an AppSec team to a security infrastructure team, right? So that has to be defined from the policy and come down to the users, so that they understand what is their role. Not everybody can have the complete control of the security, or should be held responsible for the security aspect of the overall application security.
Yeah, I mean, shared responsibility, absolutely. I think that's very well articulated on how do you make sure that everybody becomes responsible for security for their specific areas. And I think this is what you just said, Kuldeep, the fact that or the ideal state that there should be a single pane of glass where all these different stakeholders get visibility of stuff like application performance, to speed of deployment, to all AppSec related matrices. So everybody should be looking at the same set of prioritized KPIs or matrices. It absolutely resonates. Sorry, somebody was making a point.
Yes. So here, the scenario what Kuldeep is describing, I have a little different, thought process on that.
Sure.
For me, if this is the scenario, it's more than a security issue. It's a leadership issue. It is a cultural gap, which is actually triggering this problem. Because in security, we talk about the tools, all our tools, platform, all this, right? But unless until one thing is there to support every entire security operation, you cannot do that through a one single lens, that is collaboration. And collaboration is that is a complaint always we are listening, is that security don't have visibility, security don't have visibility. It's showing also a problem in the security team, security leadership team, that they love to operate in silos. It is not always that if yeah, it is truth, but what are the steps taken ahead to breach that gap? How many times we go to the business without, unless some scanner is triggering us, stating that, hey, can you declare us what are the tool you are currently utilizing? How many times we go to IT? Can I look at your, entire tech stack? How many times we go to finance, stating that what are the tool licenses are renewed this year, or technology licenses are renewed this year, and what are the new purchase? If we are having that entire thing and collate that, I think that will give us a better command to pursue with a communication state to each function or operation, stating that, hey, these are the new thing added in your place. Can we have a discussion to take it ahead, to protect those tools in a better way, or protect this platform in a better way? Because one thing we need to also understand, that shadow IT, or shadow in privacy, shadow in security is going to continue. Why it is going to continue? Wherever the in-house IT is not able to provide the support with the kind of budget or no budget they have in place, that is going to continue. But other hand, it is also a truth, while they are onboarding those shadows, they are not spending from their pocket. Organization is the one who is spending. So there is a zero visibility and complete lack of visibility. That is not a truth. We start believing that truth, that organization don't have visibility. The organization has visibility. That's why they are paying the vendor. So that is the area we need to look at, how to govern those shadows rather than removing, because people are actually emphasizing to remove that. That's why that difference get created, and they are more stubborn to give those declarations, rather than if we go ahead and try to govern them, ensure that this application is secure. That is going to create a healthy culture of self-declaration.
Yeah, fair.
That's my view again.
Absolutely
Maybe
fair.
people may differ.
I think I have one more way of looking at it.
Yes, Satish.
So when we actually start the projects like this, I think we can always have, I can call it as a simple term, IT enabling units. So enabling units are, InfoSec can be one of the enabling unit, information services can be the enabling unit, infrastructure can be enabling unit. We can always get a SPOC from that each unit, and they should be part of the discussion when the discussion. So when we keep talking about that infosec doesn't have a visibility in terms of what application development is going on, so if we have a representative from each team, they can actually sign off at every level, and then it can be taken ahead for results. And then when actually the implementation comes, I think then infosec will confirm whether all the guidelines have been done properly, so which will help to take these things much ahead, and that will be more smoother.
I think Arindam, today the
Yes, it is.
concept is changing, really a lot. So we work for a lot of mature organizations in UK and Europe, right?
Mhm.
So how it is shifting today is there is a concept of productized way of working. There is no horizontal as such. So every product owner is whole and sole responsible for anything and everything around the product, right? So it takes off all the shadow IT. IT has to be aligned with business. This is now people are learning, they're pretty much on it, right? In the mature
Right.
areas, right? So it is not something which is, which helps IT, sorry, which helps business, right?
Mhm.
It is a part of the business. It has to be a part of the product team. There has to be a product owner. who has to be responsible for security, infrastructure, application, everything, right? And he would
Yeah.
have those skills in his team, right? So there is no buying from the, a vendor or a third party or probably an in-house guy. Please come and check what's happening. I'm going to launch a new application. Please have a look at it. No, it's no longer the case, right? The case is we are working in a digital. So the go-to market, right,
Mhm.
for any agile organization in terms of applications is 4 days, 5 days, 10 days. They're releasing new things, right? They
Yeah.
don't have the leverage of going and asking for a resource, then that resource becoming available and you doing your job. No. So it's sitting within the product squad. No, it's called a squad and tribe model, right? So it's sitting within the squad. You have multi-skilled people, right? That's what I said in the beginning, right? You cannot rely on X, Y, or Z to do something in your organization. No dependency.
True.
So
True.
it has to
And,
be a part of your product team. So if there is a
yeah.
banking company, right, banking organization is dealing with, let's say, credit cards, right? So credit card
Mhm.
department would have, let's say, 7 applications. Everybody would have an app, a product owner, and they will be responsible for the security. I think one more thing which we actually, missed, we are all talking reactive measures, right? So there are proactive
Mhm.
measures of how you basically, look into security or applications. Purple teaming, red teaming is the ask of the day, right? Before anybody exploits it, you exploit it yourself and fix it, right? So 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 that's a very important. So it's not just, you need to wait and, you need to test and all that stuff. You have to be ahead of, the bad actors, whosoever they are, right? So
Yeah.
that's where the industry is going. If you go to critical infrastructure, organizations, nuclear, who have nuclear power plants, we are working, with a lot of them, right? So they go into a lot of offensive security, right? Because they understand they don't have time, right, to react or respond when something happens, right? They have to be ahead of them. So they have all the connects with the dark web, deep web, I mean, not just monitoring, they really have people sitting in that community, right? Who really understand what's happening in there also.
Yeah.
Absolutely fair. And
Absolutely fair. And I kind of I was reading a blog by CrowdStrike which said 71% of the organizations that they work with actually release applications weekly, or they do changes in the application on a weekly basis, and 19% of those do changes in their prod environments on a daily basis. So which means, yeah, I mean, you have to have security kind of further upstream to be able to identify those gaps. And yeah, the concepts of red team for AppSec uh, probably is catching on. This is what I am seeing, but not so much. I mean, obviously, the offensive security has to be part of every CISO's game plan. But I think that shift towards AppSec from a offensive security standpoint is still some ways off. We still rely on doing code reviews. Now to some extent, it's possibly because not everybody is putting out apps out there. The smaller organizations probably don't have, or the mid-sized organizations probably do not have that large app footprint that they can invest or should invest in red team, purple team ways of protecting their applications. Their reliance is more on more on doing manual reviews of code, doing a checklist model of ensuring that people are doing the right stuff. But yeah, I mean, at some point they'll also have to kind of go down towards that path. Sorry, I think Udit, you were trying to make another point.
No, I think that's pretty much right. So that's what I was saying. And
Yeah,
I'll tell you, Arindam, see, it's not just app security, it's security of the organization, it's system security, right? So the app is running on something, right? And that something, right, is really also need to be secure. I mean, so you have concept of zero trust in everything, right? So I think we are just talking code, I understand in this call, right? But there are deeper intricacies where the code is running on, right? Those intricacies can also be used to exploit your application, right? It's just not the
yeah,
code, right? It's the underlying fabric on which it is running, what it is configured for, is it really hardened? I mean, so there's a lot of things, right? The operating system that it is using, the calls that it is making to the other systems, right? I mean, not at the app layer, at the infrastructure layer also. So it's a system security concept, I would say, rather than just an app security concept. Yeah.
No, no, absolutely, absolutely. No, no, absolutely, absolutely. You can't keep them separate. When you're doing the pen test, it's looking at all the different layers.
I
not
think
just-
I think lots of echoes from your side, certainly.
No, actually, I think it's Udit's mic was open, so that's fine. Then you can go ahead. That's
No, I was just kind of re-summarizing what the point that Udit made. So yeah, absolutely fair point that it. I mean, you need to look at it not
So
just as
basically,
the solution overall.
Satish
So
is
basically,
saying
when, yeah.
something.
So when we talk about the product owner, I think product owner is expected to be the all-rounder who knows about the function, who knows about the process, who knows about the technology, who understands the security requirement for the application. And that is where Udit was talking about that he should be able to identify people who will help him to resolve the issues. And I think I have seen this happening. So product owner is basically all-rounder. He may not be master, but he understands the business very well. And then he will get the right guy to get the things put in place.
Get it done.
Yeah, right.
So here I can say that today how CISO function is working. It's very important from a AppSec perspective. Let's look a model which is very finely working across the industry is the HR function. HR head is highly responsible for any HR related activity within the organization, but in turn he is a custodian and he is giving all the HR resources to everybody, and this particular function head is actually responsible for taking care of overall requirement of the resource. But again, HR head is continuously monitoring that he or she is not mistreated, proper work environment is given, proper set of support given, proper training has given before assigning something, and there is a HR partner working to continuously monitor and roll back. And that HR partner may not be a very senior person, but very sensitively they're trained to monitor this activity and take the feedback. Same way, today CISOs, for me, CISO is somebody, one person, right? Though we have lots of what is called subtitle today, but CISO, if we at high levels, head of security globally for the organization, they have business security officer everywhere today. And this business security officer role is more like a, the HR partner who is actually monitoring that assigned area. It could be assigned region or assigned particular function to look at what they are looking for and aligning the core expertise of that top level team of CISO while there is any change or something they are looking for in a very proactive fashion. That's the expected for business security officer or regional security officer or a particular wings of a security officer, where what I feel the misalignment is when we are looking at that, we need to look at a very, very clearly the softer aspect of the person related to relationship building,
Sure.
critical aspect of resolving the issues, act
But
as a
Lopa,
solution provider, more as a project
but
manager,
Dr.
rather
Lopa,
than a skill set
no, no.
issue.
So Dr.
Sorry,
Lopa,
Kuldeep.
yeah. So obviously governance is one part of it is which very critical, right? But there are on ground issues which are basically derailing everything. Okay, let's talk about the findings. Now you have a tool, your SST tool is running, your DST tool is running, your runtime protection tool is running, and then you are doing vulnerability scanning, and then you are doing pen testing scanning, right? You have now
Right.
thousands of, or I can say millions of findings depending on how large your application landscape is. Now, how to
Right.
catch up with those findings to fix them with the speed of development which we just talked about, which is like a week or a day, right? They are developing new features on weekly basis, daily basis. How are you going to catch up with that speed? So that's
Right.
one question. Second
Right.
is, how are you going to make sure the zero-day vulnerabilities or the critical applications or the most critical applications are secured from those vulnerabilities? How are you going to prioritize them? I think these have been the biggest challenges with the large organizations, and and that's what I think the more focus is currently. How are you going to deal with them? Because those are
Right.
very overwhelming.
Right, Kuldeep, that is what I'm trying to communicate here, that we are more focusing on the issues, and that is important also for us. But to address those issues, we need a proper channelization. Unless until we make the business understand that you are responsible, and in your you have highlighted a couple of points, like roles and responsibility, all this. I believe today a mid-sized to big-size organization, minimum they are ISO certified. ISO certified means they have a documented role and responsibility. The gap is that when auditor is coming, HR is displaying those roles and responsibility for the clearance of audit. But most importantly, at the beginning of every year, is it communicated to the employee, hey, you have a security role and responsibility? Secondly, are their performance tracked against that? Is that if they are violating or they are not taking care of security requirement of the organization, is that going to impact their performance? uh, in past, I have worked with an organization where we need to demonstrate functional head-wise
No,
security
but
adherence.
Dr. Lopez, but we are talking about the bigger thing here. You look at the bigger picture, right? I'm talking about, let's say, a company's bread and butter application, right? Now, if there is a security breach with that application, it's not about a single resource who was writing the code. The problem is not that he doesn't want to fix the code or doesn't want to fix the vulnerability. The problem is the speed, right? The business wants the features to get ahead. That means this has to come from the top, which I previously talked about, the risk appetite, right? What is the organization's risk appetite? What is their vision? What is their strategies towards the security? How they wanted to deal with it?
Okay.
So it's not the end user who is
No, I'm
responsible
not
for that,
talking about
right?
end user,
Yeah,
Kuldeep. I'm talking about the organization which is kind of operating
Yeah.
in 90 plus countries across the world, where addressing something is not possible through the technology. It is only possible through the owner, establishing the ownership, giving the feedback and prioritize the thing. We need to understand that there is no separate goal like security goal, application goal. Everything is a business goal, and we need to align with that. We need to collaborate, and we need to prioritize. There are certain cases, for example, if there is a release supposed to happen every second day, right? Security requirement need to be captured in every storyboard. If there is a slip, it is not that we will come with a scanner,
yeah,
scan and give. It has to be tested as part of their rigorous secure application testing, as part of their normal testing, and the application people need to be equipped with that security privacy requirement testing. Whereas scanner and our application tool coming to the latter part, if we start dumping only the scanned report and not able to address that, there is a strategical problem. We need to, every organization is unique, we need to look at that strategical problem from strategic perspective and address that. Because piling the issues is not going to work, right? We need to resolve that.
yeah, absolutely fair, Lopa. I think that makes absolute sense. If I could maybe move to another area where I saw some questions coming in, this is the form that I rolled out, is on the supply chain related application issues or application security issues as such. So primarily the question being, how do you address application security risks coming out from third-party plugins that get used, or APIs that integrate with your core application? So Udit or Kuldeep, if one of you want to start off with how you are looking at or how your organizations are looking at supplier software related risks.
Okay, so I'll go.
Sure, Kuldeep. Yeah.
So I think the first and foremost thing, this third party vendor risk management, which has been there for quite a long, and a lot of organizations which understand the impact of the third party risks which they bring when they onboard an infrastructure vendor or a software vendor or even a service vendor or a software or an open source, or there is a whole list of third-party stuff which you can bring into your organization by different means. And a lot of organizations are following that, basically the overall third-party risk management framework to assess the your vendors or your suppliers or your applications. So I think it all boils down to the same basic approach about how do you basically first of all, in any security thing, the first thing is to know your threat landscape, right? So until unless you don't have an inventory of your vendors, right, or the open source library you are consuming or the softwares you are using, right, until unless you don't have the inventory, definitely you will not be able to understand what controls or what assessments or what things you need to do on for those third party stuff, right? So first thing is obviously to create that inventory, right, to create that whole list of the third party stuff you're using, right? And then you basically go to the fundamental of prioritizing or giving them a risk score based on the type of services they are providing or the type of software it is, which application it is using. You try to understand how what kind of risk or impact it can bring to the organization in terms of applications or systems or infrastructure, right? And then the third thing is obviously establishing those the frameworks or the controls or how you're going to onboard those third party stuff into your ecosystem, right? In terms of doing their assessments, understanding their current landscape, how do they control their security, how do they build the code if you're using a third party code which you wanted to incorporate, what standards they are following, right? So all those checklists and balances need to be factored into the onboarding process. And if you have already onboarded, then there has to be a risk assessment which has to be done regularly for the third party, the companies or the softwares. Right, and then obviously the controls, you need to have those CMPs, which are the common minimal practices which you wanted to put in terms of the controls. Like if you're going to integrate with any APIs, these are the 10 things which you need to do. Right, this is the standard of API communication we're going to follow. This is the security control. This is the authentication protocol. This is the authorization. This kind of data can be authorized, and so on and so forth. So all those have to be listed, and that's the only way, right? There is no one thing which you can implement and will fix all your third-party risks.
Correct. And hence, again, the starting point for everything in cyber is to get that whole inventorization of third-party software, what software, and follow maybe an SBOM framework kind of a thing to ensure that you have identified everything, and then follow through with that process of overall third-party risk, looking at what kind of controls that they manage, How do they look at zero-day vulnerabilities? Do they have a strong enough incident response plan to be able to help you in case there are vulnerabilities that end of the day do get compromised? So yeah, I mean, I think we'll have to look at that overall aspect. And any other thoughts?
It's
Sorry.
like it's like the whitelisting or blacklisting of softwares you do for your organization, right? That for my endpoints, I will not allow X softwares or I will only allow Y softwares, right? So you
Mhm.
always do either blacklisting or whitelisting. Similar is the case for your application also. So if you have the visibility of what kind of tech stack my organization is using for different applications to be right, so you do that kind of whitelisting and blacklisting of those applications, open source codes or plugins, so that your developers understand, your applications team understand that these are the best practices or these are the standards which we need to follow, right? Rather than saying do do a secure coding practices. And so you have to have those controls, you have to have that kind of a structure in place which gives some kind of visibility, or I would say more of a helping hand to the developers or application
Hmm.
teams build secure applications or incorporate secure application practices basically.
Sure. Great.
So
Anything?
basically, templatizing what we are looking at for the organization is very important. And once you
Hmm.
templatize it, it becomes easy to practice it, and then we can share that with the vendor, the third party also. So TPRA
Yeah.
is becoming a common practice in most of the organizations today. So it's not only about security part of it, even in terms of getting the right skill sets, even whether they are financially viable to handle such projects, which is also equally important. So we just keep talking about security, but the important thing is financially, are they capable? Sometimes you expect tools implemented from the vendor, okay, third party, if they are working from silo or work from home kind of environment, then this vendor has a capability to purchase those softwares, implement at their level. Are they into a place where they can give us the secured coding, passing or connecting to our network? All these play a key role, and we should put it as a template. They're saying that, boss,
Hmm.
these requirements, you
Hey,
So
Satish, sorry, you're
your
kind of breaking up.
voice, yeah.
Hey, Satish, sorry, you're kind of breaking up. We're losing your voice.
But I think what Satish is
so
trying to
basically
say
what
is
I'm trying
that
to tell is,
it's not.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Please go ahead, Shitish. I think we
Yeah,
lost you.
what I'm trying to tell, basically, templatize in terms of what is our requirement for the third party vendor. So if I'm very clear that what I'm looking at, then because it's my customized which to fit to. So some vendor may some, so you can those, and then you get the fittest to survive kind of people into the as a third party for us.
Okay, great. Understood,
Hope
Satish.
my voice is clear
Yeah,
now.
I mean, we're kind of breaking in and out, Satish. We didn't get the whole thing, but I think I broadly got the point. So I think we are already 10 minutes over.
Network issue. That's why I'm facing this problem.
Yeah, yeah.
So just last point. Yeah, go ahead, Ashok.
Hi, Arindam.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm having. I think it's great to hear different perspective from different industry leaders here. Basically, in financial services, what we have seen, we are always basically very thin on the development side. We are most of the time taking products which are out of the box and customizing for the business.
Yeah.
And there are multiple applications, 80, 100 odd applications within a big NBFC or a bank kind of environment. And VAPT and all the infosec is also most of the time outsourced. So very thin team on the IT side, mainly to manage the applications and the business stakeholders and give a first level of support. But most of the things are done at the vendor end. And also the infosec is also outsourced on a SLA base, and CISO and his 2-3 member team generally can't do beyond that time. What I have observed that generally when we are onboarding various external vendors, we look at their I mean whatever VAPT scans or their product, how secured it is. Those reports are taken and we onboard vendor. Post development also, if the application is internet facing, we try to do a VAPT and app scan, and all the other rules like server hardening and other stuff are carried out. But still it is like there is a risk which I can always foresee, because the app scan is generally done for a set of applications in a quarter or in a 6 month, once in 6 months. So there is always this is a ever evolving field where new vulnerabilities gets introduced, and there is a high chance that we generally are whenever we do a app scan, there are new vulnerabilities are open in the environment. We also present it at the board level or as well as the information security council level. Those vulnerabilities are discussed. But generally, what I mean, I also heard Lopa that and other members saying, Udit saying that product needs to own that, they need to wear the multi hat. What I have observed in the industry is that the product team is generally occupied on the uh, creating new features on the product side. They are not pure tech product I mean for in the NBFC or a bank kind of a stuff, they are purely coming from a product feature, and they generally are driven by the targets. So we always feel that ultimately IT application leads needs to ensure that the app scan related vulnerabilities are closed, and the infra team needs to ensure that the vulnerabilities on the OS or the other hardware related stuff are taken care from the respective vendor, and infosec team present. So generally this ownership is always between basically IT team and the infosec team, sorry, IT team and the infra team. And infosec team just presented the flash that these are the open vulnerabilities and we need to work together. Business generally don't own them up. Only if there is a critical vulnerabilities, then we try to take a risk acceptance from the business head or the CFO, and I mean tell them that we will close it within 3 months, 6 months. That is how we present it. This is the actual hard reality with which we are grappling on the ground.
No, absolutely fair, Ashok, and I think that's what has been my experience working with some other NBFCs as well. That the focus is, I mean, while it's good to have a risk-based approach to things, but leaving a critical vulnerability in the environment just basis a risk assessment. I mean, sitting on the outside, it's easy to say it's not a good idea, but I mean that's hard reality. That's how NBFCs, and I completely agree that the teams are not that big. The development is being done by a third party where security has not got much of a clout. It's more of a business driven agenda to get that product developed and at speed and at cost. It becomes maybe a bit difficult for security to drive their agenda that, hey, look, before you release anything to production, to back into the NBFC, make sure that there are no critical vulnerabilities. So yeah, I mean that's a fairly
Yeah. No, I
common.
mean what Ashok mentioned is it's the very bitter truth of the landscape. Okay, and this is major with the majority of organization, but there are organizations which have mastered this skill. Okay, and that's what I was talking initially also about, that initially there was no roles, right? There was developer, there was security, and there are IT people, and those IT and security teams are doing their stuff, fixing and passing on issues to the application team, and then application team say, okay, it's not critical because we have more critical stuff to release, so we'll park it for now. And that's how everything gets piled up, right? And then there are legacy systems which have been built from last 20 years, 50 years, even 100 years. There are the applications we have been built. There are so many acquisitions, so many applications, right? So they have like millions of different tech stacks, different libraries which have been used. Now organizing that and creating a standard framework is been a biggest challenge. But some of the large companies which saw this coming in during their digital transformation, they made sure that they have defined those practices, they have defined those guidelines, they have shortlisted, they have created those frameworks that we are going to use these tech stacks only, right? So when we are moving towards cloud, when we are going to migrate our applications to cloud, or when we are going to migrate our monolithic application to microservices, this is how we're going to do it. This is the tech stack we're going to use, and this is the standard we're going to follow, right? And I mean, that's the only way to have that cleaner and cleaner system down the line. Now there is a possibility of not everybody is going into digital transformation. Not everybody is changing their applications. Specifically, if you see the banking applications are running smoothly for years and years, they don't want to touch them, right? But then there are ways how you're going to protect those applications by building those wrappers and front ends, which can basically become your modern layer of application on top of your existing frameworks. But the point here is that the people which we are talking about, the people who understand engineering, who understand security, who understand infrastructure, are very, very less. Okay, now people are either developers are learning security, or security is learning engineering. They are doing, but we need to look at the team. We need to have those team built in which talks this gibberish, okay, which understands this gibberish. And that is the team which every organization has to form, which understand both landscapes and can become a bridge between these guys. Okay, which understand because if I'm using an old operating system, the point is not patching that operating system. The point is to change that operating system down the line. Though we wait for 3 months to get that application team to patch or do something, meanwhile we try to plan to migrate. So all those things have to be considered, which may become a bottleneck, and that's all about the tech debt which we always face in organization. This tech debt is the one which is holding us back while we want to bring security to the speed of DevOps.
Yeah, no, absolutely fair.
So when we are talking about the supply chain security, one area I would like to highlight for the people who is having more than 1,000 vendors, or kind of 10,000 vendors supplying different material to the IT and other areas. Very important is calling for a particular report called SOC type 2 or type 3 and look at the section 4. That is the best way to assess them, not the assertion report of SOC, neither IS audit report all is working, nor a risk assessment response is working, because some people are very good in providing the responses in a very diplomatic way. But SOC report section 4 is actually going to open their entire Pandorum box in front of you, where they're standing from security perspective. Specifically, if you are looking for application, go and check the section application under that.
Yeah, I think that's a absolutely great point, Dr. Lopa. We should, I mean, as part of your supplier risk, if you have institutionalized that process that all of my partners need to bring a SOC 2 type 2 or even a SOC 2 type 1, you get some visibility into what their practices and processes are.
Yes, why I
that.
have mentioned complete report rather than just assertion. In assertion, there is nothing called SOC pass or fails, right? It is the organization is compliant with the SOC. There is a two set of declaration, one from organization, one from independent party. But independent party, what work they have done, that entire section is logged in section 4.
Yeah, totally. Okay, I think we're already way over time. I'm happy to continue, but I know it's a Sunday afternoon for everyone. It was a great conversation. I think a lot of insights and a lot of use cases that have come up. I will obviously summarize all these aspects. Um, there are a couple of points that do strike out, which I think is going to be repeatable across industries, across organizational sizes, etc., which I'm sure are going to be takeaways. So I'll definitely document all of these and share them out to this group along with the recording from today's session. So once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you for all your inputs and perspectives on this important topic of AppSec. So yeah, thanks.